Adobe Illustrator has incredibly powerful typographic control, allowing you to precisely format and alter type in any way imaginable. Let's take a closer look at the typographic formatting controls that Illustrator offers. Now, I'm beginning this video with the formattingtype.ai file already open on my computer. And I want to point out that if you open up your Layers panel, I have locked all of the layers except for the footer layer that we're going to be working on for formatting type. So you just want to double check and make sure you're clicked on the footer layer before we begin. Now I'm going to zoom in on the bottom portion of this page where I'm at the footer, and I'll zoom in even a little bit more so we can see this a little bit easier. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to change the font. Now we have two basic formatting panels that we're going to be using, and that's the character panel and the paragraph panel. So if we go to the window menu, go down to type and choose character, it's actually going to open up both panels together because they are grouped together. So we have our character-based formatting and our paragraph-based formatting. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our character-based formatting, and I can either switch to my type tool, or I can simply double-click on this text with my selection tool to switch over to the type tool. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is select all of this text because I want to change the font that is applied. Now, currently we have Myriad Pro applied, and I'm going to be using a different font, but if you don't have that font available, feel free to use any font of your choosing. Now, the first thing I want to point out that's a new feature inside of the current version of Illustrator is how we find fonts. You'll notice that you can access your character panel up here in the control panel or here in the character panel as well. And we can, of course, click on the drop-down menu and we can search through all of our fonts to find the one that we're looking for. But if you know what font you're going to use, it's a lot easier to simply start typing the name. Now, if you look at this search button here, you click on that button, you'll see that we have two methods in which to search. We can do search first word only, which is a traditional method that Illustrator has used. So if I start typing HYP, it's going to filter to only show me the first font that it finds. However, if I click on this search button again, and I choose search entire font name, and I start typing HYP, you can see that it's filtering to show me all of the fonts that include those three characters. Just to show you, if I start typing MYR, it's going to show me all of the fonts that contain those characters. So I do want to use Hypatia Sans Pro, so I'm going to type HYP, and I'm going to use the black version here, and I'm going to apply that to my text. Now, the other thing we can do here, you will notice in the character panel, we do have quick access to the touch type tool, which we normally would have to access over here in my tools panel. So I'm going to keep this text selected, and we've changed our font, and I want to change the point size as well. Now, I actually have two different point sizes that I want to use here. So this first word, the shopping, we're going to make that 14 points. So we can go ahead and pick that from the list. And I'm going to go ahead and make the leading 18. So I'll go ahead and choose that as well. That looks pretty good. And then I'll highlight the remainder of the text, and that's a little bit smaller. So we're going to make that text 10 point, and we'll go ahead and make the leading here, we're going to make it 23 points. Now you'll notice I don't have that as an option in the pull down, but we can simply highlight the value and type it. Now, before I do that, I just want to point out that you can see right now that the leading value is in parentheses, and that indicates auto leading. That means that you're using the auto value found in the drop-down menu. And it just basically means that the leading is going to change along with the point size. You'll see as I change the point size, the leading updates as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change that back to 10 point type, and then I'm just going to type in here 23 point leading. There we go. Now, in addition, down here at the bottom, you can adjust kerning and tracking very easily. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this word up here. And over here, we can change the tracking. Now, I want my tracking set to a little bit tighter than what it is. And tracking is a spacing between a range of characters. So I'm going to go ahead and change the tracking to 90. and that's going to space out those characters. I'm going to do the same thing for this text as well. Go to make the tracking 90. Now, that contrasts a little bit with what kerning is. Kerning is adjusting the space between individual characters of text. So if I put my cursor between two characters, you can go ahead and adjust the kerning, and that's only going to change the spacing between those characters. I have a lot of tracking applied right now. I'm going to go ahead and set this back to 0, and now you'll see if I click in there and I start adjusting the tracking, I'm spacing out those characters. Now you can also use a keyboard shortcut, which is Option or Alt, left and right arrow key on your keyboard, and that will also adjust the kerning and the tracking as well. The difference is whether you have your cursor inserted or you have a range of text selected. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of this again. Let's reset the kerning. I'm going to go ahead and click on the drop down and choose Optical. And then for the tracking, let's go ahead and set that to 90. That way all of our type is consistent. I should also point out that you can adjust the point size of your font by using a keyboard shortcut, Shift-Command on Mac or Shift-Control on Windows, and the greater than and less than keys on your keyboard. So it's an easy way for you to adjust the point size. And then the leading is Option or Alt, up and down arrow key. So if you wanted to change your leading, you can do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that my text is still set to 14/18. That looks good. Now, we do have more options in the character panel. If you click on this double arrow, we can see that we have additional options here. So I'm actually going to highlight this first word. You can see that we have vertical scaling. We have horizontal scaling, which I'm just going to go ahead and increase that to about 105. And this is going to stretch my type out a little bit, but that's okay. And then we have baseline shift. We also have character rotation. And then down here we have some commonly used formatting as well. So I'm going to highlight all of this and turn on the all caps checkbox. And now you can see that it converts all of my characters to the uppercase version. But we also have small caps, superscript, subscript, underline, and strike through. Now let's switch over to our paragraph formatting. Because in your paragraph formatting, you have the ability to change the alignment within the area type or the point type. Although I have to say it's a little more relevant when you're using an area type box. When you're using point type, the horizontal alignment is a little awkward. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of this text, and I'm going to click on the Align Center button to align that text to the center of the frame. Just so we can see this a little bit better right now, I'm going to highlight this, and let's change our color to white. That way we can see our text a little bit better. And if you go to the transparency panel, I'm going to go ahead and decrease the opacity to 60%. There we go. Now, in addition, within your paragraph formatting, you can apply a left indent, which is going to push your text away from the left edge of the frame, right indent, which will push your text from the right edge of the frame, and first line indent. This is good for paragraph copy. Now, we also have down here space before and space after. And this allows me to add additional space either before or after a paragraph without having to insert an additional return. To make it a little bit easier to see this, I'm going to go to the Type menu, and I'm going to choose Show Hidden Characters. And that's going to show me all of my non-printing characters that are going to appear in my text. It's not actually going to print, but I can see these are spaces, and here are paragraph returns. So with my cursor clicked inside of Shopping right here, I'm going to go ahead and increase my space after. I'm just going to add a little bit of additional space here. I'm going to add 3 points. So you'll notice as I increase this, I'm pushing this text down because I'm adding space after this paragraph, which is what this character is indicating. Now if you click on the double arrow, you can see that you can go from showing all options to some options to no options as well. As you can see, there's no shortage of options when it comes to formatting text in Illustrator. Making use of these formatting options will provide you with the typographic precision and control to create your own great-looking artwork.